Imagine standing at the edge of a metaphorical social precipice, acutely aware that a single careless word could unravel your entire standing. Your heart hammers against your ribs, yet your physical exterior remains locked in an absolute, impenetrable posture of serene indifference. You do not explain, you do not justify, and you refuse to offer a shred of conversational padding. What unfolds next is not merely a mild disagreement, it is the total evaporation of the subtle psychological leverage your environment attempts to assert over you. Society trains us to fear social friction and rush to fill every quiet interval with nervous compliance, but masters of hyper-awareness understand that true authority belongs entirely to those who master the subtle architecture of the conversational vacuum. This is not about being antisocial, this is the orchestration of the Iron Wall Protocol, a clinical mental barrier utilized by history's most guarded strategists to neutralize social pressure without firing a single shot. Welcome back to What Else Official. Today we decode why your continuous need for emotional synchronization is the invisible leash held by your social circle and how cutting that cord forever grants you unshakable sovereignty. Why are human beings hardwired to become absolute slaves to social synchronization? From the microsecond your consciousness engages with the room, external expectations tug your focus like strings attached to a marionette. A disapproving glance flashes and your posture caves, an uninvited critique lands and your defenses flare, a subtle shift in tone occurs and your anxiety spikes. You are bound by thousands of invisible social cables, and any perceptive operator who identifies your specific frequency can orchestrate your emotional state at will. The true architect of social pressure does not conquer you through direct confrontation, they conquer you through your predictable need for harmony. If an adversary charts your exact compliance matrix, you are already psychologically imprisoned. But what occurs when those invisible wires suddenly snap? What happens when they push for a reaction and encounter absolute weightlessness? This marks the exact birth point of authentic power. It is the heavy silence lingering after an unearned demand, the steady, unblinking gaze held 3 seconds past the point of comfort, the absolute refusal to dispense the emotional validation your environment desperately craves. Have you ever felt that burning, agonizing itch to apologize or over-explain just to relieve conversational tension? That frantic impulse is your psychological armor fracturing. Throughout this dark exploration, we will train your nervous system to sit directly inside that freezing social discomfort until it transforms into an impregnable fortress. We will examine the terrifying mechanics of emotional non-participation, observing how a calculated lack of response births a vacuum that others frantically pack with their own confessions, raw insecurities, and eventual total surrender. You will soon realize that the most dangerous presence in any room is never the loudest voice, but the entity completely comfortable fading into absolute mystery. In the upcoming phases of this psychological blueprint, we will dissect the surgical precision of the boundary protocol, mapping why high-value operators utilize profound silence as an absolute filter against social parasites. We are dissecting the exact physiological shifts required to transition from a helpless casualty of social impulse into the supreme commander of your own physical presence. Are you prepared to sever every single string? Are you ready to witness what unfolds when you offer the world absolute nothingness? The void expands before you and your permanent transformation commences right now. What else lurks beneath the surface of absolute behavioral control? Let us descend further into the dark artistry of the zero-reaction method, preparing your mindset because once you perceive reality through this lens, returning to a reactive existence becomes entirely impossible. To truly grasp the mechanics of this boundary framework, you must examine the raw biology of social friction. Every manipulative environment, every casual boundary pusher, and every emotional drain operates as an active hunter tracking your internal stability. They do not merely seek your cooperation, they demand your internal chaos, fishing desperately for a spike in your anxiety. When they project a subtle provocation your way, they cast a psychological line waiting for the sharp tug of defensiveness, the frantic twitch of justification, or the trembling shudder of compliance. That specific reaction serves as their social proof of life, confirming they maintain direct access to your operating system. If they manipulate you into defending your choices, they render you completely predictable, and the second you start justifying your character to an outsider, you voluntarily hand them the judge's gavel. You officially validate their jurisdiction over your self-worth. Yet the zero-reaction method completely shatters this dynamic, standing as the ultimate refusal to participate as a willing witness in your own manufactured trial. When you withhold every drop of emotional data, the predator faces instant starvation. They pull the trigger string, expecting a frantic dance, and instead encounter a black hole of pure nothingness. This void breeds intense psychological panic within the attacker because human neurology fundamentally relies on closed feedback loops. When a loop fractures violently, the aggressor's brain spirals into frantic overdrive. They escalate their pressure, they amplify their demands, and they deploy increasingly desperate tactics, which becomes their ultimate downfall. By escalating wildly while you maintain monolithic stillness, they expose their utter lack of internal governance. They become the frantic marionette of their own desperation while you remain the chilling, detached archivist of their collapse. Consider the cold precision of emotional distance, engineered explicitly to render your social footprint as invisible and flavorless as a common stone on a desolate path. No emotional shine, no sudden movement, no accessible flavor profile. By merging with the background of your social environment, you vanish entirely from the predator's targeting radar. This philosophy avoids victimhood entirely, morphing your persona into a psychological black hole where chaotic energy simply disappears. When calculating operators attempt to map your vulnerabilities, they hunt explicitly for your micro-tells, the subtle twitch of discomfort or the rapid blinking of anxiety. Mastering this protocol demands heavy conditioning of your autonomic nervous system, training yourself to maintain icy, analytical observation amidst chaos. It requires a permanent divorce between your internal emotional storm and your external physical presentation. You might experience a raging fire burning deep inside your chest, but outwardly you present as a tranquil, impenetrable dark lake. This stoic distance radiates an intimidating aura of profound mystery because human psychology inherently fears what it cannot calculate or map. If an opponent fails to locate your buttons, they lose all capability to press them. This deliberate silence functions as an elite social filter utilized naturally by high-value individuals who feel zero compulsion to fill empty air with meaningless noise just to validate their existence. They understand intimately that within any high-stakes dynamic, the individual who breaks the silence first surrenders their leverage. Silence remains the sacred space where an opponent's fragile ego goes to suffocate. Notice how legendary historical figures and dominant cinematic archetypes consistently speak the fewest words while commanding absolute obedience. They never beg for validation, they command total attention simply by withholding their energy. We are going to teach you how to project this impenetrable barrier toward toxic superiors, draining family dynamics, and even the relentless critic echoing inside your own mind. The void is far from empty, holding infinite potential energy waiting to be harnessed. Are you prepared to watch reality reorganize itself the moment you abandon the urge to fix external chaos and choose instead to simply observe? What else are they concealing beneath their frantic demands for your attention? Now that you have mastered the foundational engineering of the void, you must conquer the ultimate frontier, which is the silence of the self. The most dangerous reaction you will ever face does not originate from the adversary testing you, but rather from the internal voice whispering demands to defend your honor or seek approval. Achieving mastery over this boundary protocol extends far beyond winning a tactical social game. It represents conquering the internal civil war within your own consciousness. You systematically condition your neural pathways to accept a liberating truth: external opinions hold zero jurisdiction over your objective reality. Their projected judgment remains their personal burden to carry, not yours. Their harsh opinions function entirely as confessions of their own internal bankruptcy, never a conviction of your character. By completely refusing to react, you reclaim vast reserves of vital energy previously squandered on individuals unworthy of a single second of your existence. You transform into an impenetrable citadel of calm amidst a deafening sea of chaotic static. This emotional independence serves as the defining signature of a high-value individual, proving an unyielding capacity to maintain internal equilibrium regardless of hostile external conditions. You cease functioning as a helpless casualty of circumstance, stepping seamlessly into the role of supreme master of your own presence. You observe the manipulation strings, you spot the hidden hooks floating through the air, and you effortlessly step aside as they sail harmlessly past your space. The surrounding world will relentlessly attempt to drag you back into the theatrical mud, engineering scenarios designed to make you loud, emotionally volatile, and painfully predictable. Yet your perspective has fundamentally evolved. You recognize that your profound silence functions as your ultimate sanctuary, and your absolute stillness operates as your greatest tactical weapon. You realize deeply that the most devastating response to pressure is unyielding quiet, and the ultimate antidote to an energy predator is complete emotional non-existence. You become the mysterious ghost inhabiting their operational machinery, the unpredictable variable that keeps them restless and awake during late-night hours. What additional tactics could anyone possibly deploy against you once you completely sever your emotional investment in their opinions? The power dynamic has permanently inverted, transferring complete operational control directly into your hands. This is What Else Official, forging a relentless collective of sovereign minds who utterly reject manipulation, refuse predictability, and decline to live by anyone else's manipulated rulebook. If this deep descent into the dark psychology of boundaries has fundamentally altered your framework, you occupy the exact space you were destined to reach. Yet our journey across the shadows continues right now, and your participation defines our strength. Have you ever deployed the sheer power of silence to instantly neutralize a toxic dynamic in its tracks? Did you experience that exhilarating psychological shift the exact moment you realized victory required zero verbal output? Document your lived experience in the comments section below, as your personal breakthrough might serve as the exact spark another individual requires to shatter their own invisible chains. We personally review every single insight contributed by our community, building a powerhouse of advanced psychological fortification. If this exploration brought massive value to your mindset, hammer the like button right now to signal the algorithm that deep psychological sovereignty must reach those currently trapped in endless reactive loops. Ensure you are subscribed to What Else Official with all notifications aggressively engaged, because our upcoming deep dive plunges even deeper into the hidden architecture of the human mind. Refuse to miss the next major revelation. Join our ranks, maintain absolute awareness, and remember that the most devastating tactical strike you can execute today is doing absolutely nothing. What else are they concealing from you within the daily noise? We will uncover the truth together in the next transmission. Stay still, stay strong, stay silent.